The golden hour sunlight filtered through ancient oak trees, casting a warm glow on Ethan and Cooper as they chased a faded tennis ball. Cooper, a honey gold retriever with a bright white star on his chest, leaped high, his amber eyes locked entirely on Ethan's laughing face. That was before the shattered silence became Ethan's entire world, replacing the rhythmic patting of paws with the agonizing tick of a clock. Now, the Seattle sky wept relentless sheets of freezing rain, washing away the warmth of their shared life and leaving only a biting cold. Curled beneath a rusted fire escape in the sprawling industrial district, Cooper shivered violently, his thick coat matted and dripping with dark alley water. The lost dog was not just hungry, he was a fragmented soul looking for his other half, letting out a trembling, vaporized sigh. Miles away, in a minimalist living room, Ethan sat completely frozen, staring at a yellow squeaky toy, resting untouched on the cold hardwood floor. A suffocating survivor's guilt crushed Ethan's chest every time he felt his heater, knowing his best friend was out there freezing in the dark. Ethan wore the same charcoal gray Henley and navy utility jacket he had on the day Cooper vanished, the fabric smelling of stale coffee. He rubbed his rugged face, feeling the rough prickle of 3 days' stubble, his red-rimmed eyes reflecting a deep, unbearable anxiety and utter exhaustion. In the neon-lit alleyway, Cooper slowly rose to his paws, his weathered red leather collar jingling faintly as he shook off the freezing rain. The desperate dog tilted his head, his human-like eyes pleading with the shadows, searching for the familiar scent that always whispered of home. He limped toward the glowing window of a corner diner, hoping the clinking silverware and muffled laughter meant a kind hand might reach out. Instead, a hurried cook shooed him away into the downpour, forcing Cooper to lower his head in shame and tuck his honey gold tail. Ethan paced his empty kitchen, the ghost of a wagging tail haunting his peripheral vision every time he walked past Cooper's stainless water bowl. The mechanical whirring of a printer broke the dead quiet as hundreds of brightly colored missing flyers spilled onto the cluttered dining table. Ethan grabbed a roll of heavy packing tape and stepped out into the unforgiving storm, the icy wind immediately slashing at his tired face. He approached a slick brick wall under a flickering street lamp, smoothing the paper flyer with his palm as if stroking Cooper's wet fur. Deep in the city's metallic bowels, Cooper wandered past that exact same brick wall mere moments later, his nose down, sniffing a filthy puddle. The exhausted retriever paused beneath the very poster bearing his own smiling face, completely unaware his desperate owner had just been standing right there. Days bled into weeks, the crushing weight of the search hollowing Ethan out until he was nothing more than a ghost haunting his own life. He sat in the sterile, glaring, fluorescent light of the local police station, frantically swiping through his phone to show a tired officer Cooper's photo. "He has a white star right here," Ethan pleaded, his voice cracking as he pointed to the vibrant golden fur on the glowing screen. The officer offered a sympathetic but exhausted sigh, shaking his head slowly as the heavy, somber reality settled over the small desk. Ethan slumped back into the hard plastic chair, his red-rimmed eyes finally welling up with tears as he realized there were truly no leads. Meanwhile, deep in a forgotten alleyway, Cooper's desperate hunger drove him to tear at a discarded, grease-stained pizza box with his teeth. The once proud retriever let out a low, pitiful growl, his matted tail tucked firmly between his legs as he searched for a single crumb. A feral stray cat emerged from the shadows, its back arched as it unleashed a sharp, territorial hiss at the weakened dog. Cooper didn't even try to fight. He simply bowed his head, letting out a broken whimper as he limped away, utterly defeated and alone. Ethan drove aimlessly through the city, his car visor pulled down to hold a missing flyer, so Cooper's face was always in his line of sight. The rhythmic click of the turn signal was the only sound in the suffocating silence of the car as he scanned every wet sidewalk. Suddenly, a flash of honey gold fur caught his eye. Ethan slammed on the brakes, his heart hammering against his ribs in desperate hope. He threw the car door open and sprinted down the street, calling out the name that had been trapped in his throat for weeks. But as the dog turned, Ethan stopped dead in his tracks, his shoulders instantly dropping as the agonizing realization hit him it wasn't Cooper. He mumbled a weak, shattered apology to the confused owner, the ghost of a wagging tail mocking him as he slowly walked back to his car. Miles away, as the sun began to set, Cooper dragged his exhausted body across a massive concrete bridge, spanning the gray, churning river below. His gait was slow and painful, every step a monumental effort as the biting wind whipped through his matted, filthy coat. He paused to look down at the dark water, his amber eyes completely devoid of the joyful spark they once held in the park. The soft jingle of a bakery door suddenly broke the wind's howl, and a kind-faced woman stepped out onto the cold concrete. She gently set down a small plastic bowl of water and a handful of meat scraps, whispering a soft blessing to the broken animal. Ethan sat on the floor, surrounded by piles of useless flyers, a sudden, desperate realization pulling him from the brink of a total mental breakdown. He ran to his overflowing laundry basket, frantically gathering unwashed charcoal gray shirts and a worn blue wool scarf, praying to a god he hadn't spoken to in years. He drove recklessly to the park's edge, his hands trembling violently as he aggressively knotted a sweat-stained gray shirt to the high iron fence. 100 meters away, he tied the blue scarf to a wooden light pole, creating a physical bridge of hope, a scent trail leading back to his front door. A few blocks down, Cooper stumbled blindly through the fog when his wet nose suddenly twitched, catching a scent that cut cleanly through the city's stench. It was a scent that whispered of home and safety. The exhausted dog froze in his tracks, his ears lifting as a surge of adrenaline masked his deep pain. Cooper broke into a frantic run, reaching the damp blue scarf and nuzzling the wool furiously as high-pitched whimpers of pure recognition escaped his throat. Following the invisible tether, he sprinted to the next marker, the gray shirt on the iron fence, barking softly now, his pace quickening with every desperate step. Back at his house, Ethan tied the final marker to the ancient oak tree in his front yard, staring down the misty road with a heavy, breaking heart. As the heavy storm broke into a brilliant, warm, golden hour, Cooper bolted down the familiar suburban streets, his matted tail becoming a blur of joyous motion. The golden retriever spotted Ethan's silver car parked in the driveway, letting out a bold, thunderous bark that echoed beautifully through the quiet neighborhood. He sprinted the final 50 meters, tearing across the wet pavement, while Ethan, completely unaware, had just retreated inside to his silent living room. Cooper reached the wooden front porch, his claws scratching frantically against the heavy front door as he unleashed a barrage of desperate, intense whimpers. Inside, Ethan was sitting silently on his sofa with his head down when the sharp scratching hit his ears. His eyes widened, and the world stopped spinning. "Cooper?" He whispered into the empty room in a shaky, breathless voice, bolting up from the couch and scrambling toward the entryway like a man possessed. Ethan fumbled blindly with the deadbolt, throwing the heavy wooden door open so violently that it slammed against the interior hallway wall with a deafening bang. Time seemed to slow entirely as their eyes finally met a frozen moment of pure, breathless disbelief before an absolute explosion of raw, untethered joy. Cooper leaped directly into the air, and Ethan collapsed to his knees on the threshold, pulling the soaking wet, filthy dog into a crushing, desperate embrace. Ethan sobbed openly, burying his face deep into Cooper's matted, muddy neck while the dog furiously licked away the tears, both of them crying out in sheer relief. He pulled back to cup Cooper's face, laughing hysterically through his tears as he repeated, "You're home," while the dog leaned his entire weight into his soulmate. Next door, Mrs. Chen stood on her porch, wiping tears from her eyes, offering a silent thumbs up to the beautiful reunion unfolding on the steps. Ethan gently led Cooper inside, immediately grabbing an oversized bath towel and wrapping it around his shivering, filthy best friend with overwhelming tenderness. In the warm, steamy bathroom, Ethan held the shower head over Cooper, watching months of dark, oily city grime circle the drain and disappear forever. He vigorously scrubbed thick white shampoo bubbles into the matted golden fur, a genuine, life-affirming smile breaking across his exhausted face for the first time. Cooper suddenly shook his entire body, sending a massive spray of water and suds all over Ethan's gray Henley shirt, eliciting a loud, joyous laugh. Vigorously toweling him dry, Ethan revealed Cooper's thick, fluffy honey gold coat and the bright white star patch that had been hidden under the city's cruelty. Ethan filled the stainless steel bowl to the brim, and Cooper devoured the meal in seconds, his tail thumping a frantic rhythm against the cabinets. Finding the dusty yellow squeaky toy under the couch, Ethan tossed it high. Cooper caught it mid-air, spinning around the kitchen with renewed, vibrant energy. Later that night, Ethan rested on the sofa while Cooper laid his heavy head across his lap, letting out a deep, soul-healing sigh of absolute safety. Pulling out his phone, Ethan finally deleted the haunting missing wallpaper, replacing it with a fresh photo of Cooper sleeping peacefully by his side. He gathered the remaining hundreds of glossy flyers from the kitchen counter, tossing them into the recycling bin with a satisfying, finalized, heavy thud. The next morning broke with blindingly bright sunlight streaming through the windows, erasing the shadows, and illuminating a home that finally felt whole again. Ethan knelt in the grass, unbuckling the weathered red leather collar and replacing it with a sturdy new one equipped with a glowing GPS tracker. Cooper bolted out into the vibrant green backyard, his honey gold fur shining brilliantly in the morning sun as he chased a yellow butterfly. Ethan stood quietly on the porch with his hands in his pockets, breathing in the crisp air as the crushing weight of survivor's guilt finally vanished. He let out a sharp, piercing whistle, and Cooper immediately spun around, sprinting back toward his owner with a speed fueled by pure, unadulterated love. The massive dog leaped directly into Ethan's arms, knocking him backward onto the soft grass as they tumbled together in a mess of playful growls. They wrestled in the morning dew just like they did before the nightmare began, a living testament to the unbreakable, profound bond between man and dog. The camera pulled high into the sky, revealing the quiet suburban neighborhood bathed in warm light, the physical scars of their journey already fading away. As the screen faded to black, a single line of text appeared. "Love always finds its way home," accompanied by the soft rhythm of Cooper breathing.